Over the years, youth unemployment has been a major political and socio-economic challenge in Africa. In 2018, the International Labour Organization released figures indicating that about 200 million youth in Africa were unemployed. This is a disturbing trend in a continent that holds about 30% of the world mineral reserves. Little wonder creating jobs and entrepreneurship has become the campaign narratives for politicians and political parties in Africa. These they harp on to delude electorates who are mostly youth who hope to gain employment as well as enjoy other electoral promises. So far so good. How has all of these panned out for the African youth? On today's episode of Focus, we would examine the possible ways out of this doldrum and menace the African youth has found themselves. I am Joseph Effiong, and my discussants are Uwana Michael. He is an author, a public affairs analyst, and the CEO, Enfront Express Ventures. Mr. Uwana, you are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Also with me is Dacosta Adeoye. He is a youth advocate, a media practitioner, and a social crusader. Mr. Dacosta, I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Before we go on to our discuss, the topic once again is the impact of youth unemployment in Africa, Nigeria in perspective. Please ensure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at CK10 Television to join in on the discourse. Gentlemen, to shoot my first salvo, I will direct my first question to Dacosta. Despite all of the panacea to put an end to unemployment crisis among the African youth space, there seems to be no end to Africa's unemployment problem. Can you share your thoughts, narrowing it down to Nigeria, the supposed heartbeat of Africa?
Thanks so much, Effiong. Youth unemployment in Africa has always been a major problem on the continent over the years.
Yes.
And considering what is happening presently in Africa when it comes to governance and politics and the economical problem that many countries are experiencing in Africa, and coping with this issue of youth unemployment, we have a big problem on our hands, and all hands must be on deck, and we should be ready by now to do something that is very drastic about it. We don't have much time on our hands. Africa, globally, there is a population explosion, and recently the United Nations released a report, and they are even telling us that by the turn of the century, by about maybe 2050, the population of the world is going to be going to up to about 9.7 billion. And if that is happening, Africa is going to be having a larger chunk out of that population. Now, that brings us to the question, how do we manage those teeming populations that we are going to be having and projecting in the next future? So that takes us to the issue of unemployment. How do we provide employment for our people? Now, the whole world is turning to Africa. In the last 2-3 years, you've seen China calling African Summit. You've seen countries, European Union, meeting African leaders because they believe that Africa is the continent of the future. But we ourselves, in Africa, we so much need to really do something about this thing that we are talking about.
Please, Dacosta, hold your thoughts right there. I'll come back to you on that. Uwana, Dacosta have said that it's indeed a big issue, that unemployment is a big issue on our continent. Do you also agree with him, or you have a contrary opinion? What's your own take on the current situation?
Well, that is very clear. I agree with him totally. Because for a country, for a continent to move on, you have to have the peoples that are the working people. They have to be on ground. Development has to happen. Yes. And you need people. People drive development. So that has to happen, and real soon.
Let's take a look at this. In 2016, Kelvin Balogun, the president of Coca-Cola East, West and Central Africa, said that almost half of the over 10 million graduates churn out of the over 666 universities in Africa yearly do not get a job. And you will agree with me that youth unemployment has a negative impact on economic growth and productivity. there's a high risk of the loss of talent and skills, since a great amount of these graduates are unable to find a job where they can put their knowledge capabilities into producing innovations and contributing to economic growth. How can Africa reduce its staggering number of unemployed youth, going by the available statistics?
Well, to start with, I would like to say that our lifestyle, first and foremost, brought unemployment to this stage that we are.
Okay.
The lifestyle, what I'm trying to point out is this: our luxurious living lifestyle has brought us to this point. In the days before these current administrations and the ones past, we didn't have government where senators are being paid large amounts of money on a monthly basis. And you have escorts going when they are going, and you have a lot of escorts going. Manpower is just being misused. So we have brought the lifestyle that has caused unemployment. And as it's affecting the people, it is because from the top to the bottom, everybody is emulating that. The government is doing it at their own end. And individually, the luxurious lifestyle is also affecting the individuals. I'm supposed to probably make a good living out of what I am doing. But the money that I'm making, I'm supposed to save it and look forward to the future of how to see how to expand my life. But it's not happening today. People focus more on material things so much, and it's really affecting. It's a lifestyle.
Okay, Da Costa, what's your take on how Africa can reduce its staggering number of unemployed youth, going by the available statistics?
It's already going on the right direction, like the way he's talking about it. But I want to really make this point. We need to produce and create more entrepreneurs than people that are seeking job.
Okay.
And that starts with the kind of education we give to our youth. Presently, we have about 65% Nigerians that are youth. We have a larger percentage as against the problem they are having in Japan.
Yes.
Japan is aging, and it's aging fast. It's a crisis in some Asian countries that they are having the older people occupying the larger percentage of the population. But here in Africa, and especially in Nigeria, that's a plus for us. So we need to look into the different sectors of the economy, and we need to design our education to be tailored in a way that can be productive. The greatest resources any country could have is the human capital resources.
That's correct.
That you have. It's not the natural resources that you have. Have you ever think about it that most countries that are rich today, that people want to run to, they don't even have much natural resources as Nigeria, but they have the human resources. What kind of value can you add to humanity by the timid population you have? When an average Nigerian youth or an average Nigerian is standing, what skill has he acquired? What skill can he deploy to exchange for payment? And this is the things that we are talking about. Let's take agriculture, for example. Agriculture is enough. When you agri and agro-allied sectors is enough to provide employment for teeming Nigerians. I used to talk about it jokingly, but it's getting serious. Many years ago, let's look at the stretch of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway from Baja bus stop to Shagam interchange. On both sides, we still have fallow lands. What are we doing with them? Can't we plant flowers? Do you know the number of boxes of flowers that Kenya exports to Europe every day, in every 24 hours? We are the youth that can do that. We don't need to import people to come and lay tracks for us. We just need technical partners. With NYSC, we can lay rail tracks in very short time in Nigeria, and it's achievable. all we need is to train our people, is this technical manpower, and bring them up. The ICT is there. The opportunity there is inexhaustible, but we are not tapping into it enough. Well, government is trying presently with the social investment program that are coming up, trader money, market money, N-Power, and things like that. But we can still make it to be more efficient and effective. And I'm still emphasizing it. Let's look into the kind of educational system that we are offering our people. When the British were leaving us in the 60s, they intentionally left us with non-functional education. It's right there. Because they just needed clerks, they just needed secretaries that will work in many of their companies. But the same thing they did for us here, they did to many of the colonies. They did to India. India sat down and reorganized their educational system. Nigeria, we've had National Educational Research Council conferences so many times in Nigeria, but we still need to sit down and make it. Most of our policies shouldn't be grinding dust on our shelves. Okay. We need to look at the implementation and make it better. Remember, we used to have, and we still have, the 6334 educational system. What have we brought out from it? No country will become great when you are changing your educational policy from time to time.
Well, but sorry we'll come back to you on that. When Da Costa was talking, he did make mention of the various funding projections by government, successive government, and even this current administration. For example, I remember very well that the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's administration came up with the You Win for young Nigerians. And then when this administration came on board, the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration came on board, they also introduced the N-Power program for young Nigerians. And should we say, because despite all of this, and this is not the first time that we've been having different schemes, we all know that every 4 years, our politicians, they used same thing to campaign. We want to create job, uninterrupted power supply, we want to build infrastructure, and despite all of this, Nigeria currently, according to statistics, the National Bureau of Statistics released figures indicating that about 20 million Nigerians are unemployed in a labor force that is over 90 million. And not just that, Nigeria is currently the world headquarters of poverty. Should we say that the various funding projections were designed to fail?
Not actually, frankly, not actually, because at their level, they have people who have designed these programs for them, and I will not go saying they are not intelligent, but the integrity on how these programs have been handled is one of the issues. And that is one. Trust is another issue. If I want you to succeed and I give you money to succeed, that money that is being given to you, there are other things that need to be put in place for that money to really drive home the accomplishment that I need. Look at the roads. We don't have good roads. There's no light. There's no power. So if I'm giving this money to carry out a particular business, I need other facilities to make that work. So if we are going back to other countries of the world, these things are actually in place. You talk about the internet connection to make research is there. You need light or power by 2 a.m. is there. You need to leave your particular location to attend a business meeting or to carry out a particular business. You can get there in minutes. But those things are not possible here because the government had looked at the people and see that what the people actually need is that money. If people keep giving money to you, it will make you successful. They need to give you the knowledge, the skill, and make sure the environment is friendly for that business to thrive.
Well, on that note, we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at the possible solutions to the youth unemployment in Africa, Nigeria in perspective. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Focus on CK10 Television. We've been talking about the impact of youth unemployment in Africa, Nigeria in perspective. And my two discussants have been giving us their take on this ugly trend and the possible way out of this menace and doldrum the African youth has found themselves. Da Costa, there's a report I have here by the African Development Bank. According to the African Development Bank, they say that in most African countries, youth unemployment accounts at a rate more than that for adults. It also went on to say that young women feel the sting of unemployment than men. This means that it is easier for men to secure employment over women. Do you agree with that?
Looking at the culture in Africa, the chauvinistic way that we view our things when it comes to gender. And gender equality has been a campaign that is going on all around the world. It's not really peculiar to Africa, but there are challenges that when there are unpleasant situations, women feel the heat the more. And that comes to the fact that there should be some programs that are targeted at uplifting women economically and making them to be productive. People used to say that when you educate a girl, you are actually making gunning at education a nation, because a girl is going to become a woman is going to have children, she's going to become a keeper of home, and with that you have empowered her. So, and we must focus. We know that we are doing it generally governance is for everybody, but it's time we start targeting women, the female folks, because of their peculiarity, but at the same time there are other the men folks too has to be empowered. In Africa, they are the head of the homes, and you know that when you are not empowered as a man in Africa, it takes everything away from you, and that can lead to some other frustrating things in the society that we are talking about. So economically, we need to start looking at the key performing indicators that can empower men and everybody in Africa as individual to be more productive. We'll start looking at the kind of education that I mentioned earlier. We start looking at provision of power. Electricity has to be constant. We start looking at transportation. We start looking at security, because insecurity is a major issue in Africa. The smuggling and the flowing of small arms. We are not even talking about the sophisticated weapon. Small arms, and you know that what an AK-47, just one, the damage it can cause in a society. So we need to look at, it's a holistic approach that we have to look at all these things together: security, education, ICT. How do you use ICT to engage our people? One thing I know, that Nigerian youth are very energetic. Nigerian youth are very innovative. Nigerian youth are talented and creative. Smart. They are smart, and they are not lazy. Yes. They are not criminals.
Like the president said that the youth
No. Maybe he has his own
view on that.
View on that. Yeah. Maybe he has his own view on that. Not necessarily that he was totally wrong by saying that, and I wouldn't want to join the issues. So when we do that, we need to tap into the depth of those gifts and talents that they have. A lot of Nigerian youths within Nigerian borders and beyond our borders are doing great things all over the world, and we need to also rebrand ourselves and celebrate ourselves, appreciate what we look at. Fashion. Let's take fashion for example. A Nigerian youth in this country sews for the Liberian president. He comes here, he likes what he's doing, and so for other dignitaries all over the world. And we have a lot of them doing well in that industry, using our own African fabric to produce what international dignitaries now are proud of wearing all over the world. The New York Fashion Festival, the Paris Fashion Festival, the London Fashion Festival, everything, fashion festivals in Dubai. And Nigerians are making impact, especially youth in sport. We cannot talk about sports today, because that's a whole massive industry, sports and entertainment. So we need to tap into all these things and make sure that opportunities that are therein, we made it available, accessible to everybody. I want to stop with the saying of Saldana of Sokoto, the late Saldana of Sokoto. He said something. He said, Nigeria will be great and better the day that a son of nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody. And that is a true kind of, that sums up the whole thing that we are talking about. That's the kind of society that you can, at that particular point in time, we can start talking of the Nigerian dream, that you can dream big and become anything good, where opportunities are provided for everybody, equality is available, that the son of a nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody.
Okay, well, Umona, we all know that beyond what you know, in the part of the world where we found ourselves, it is believed that beyond what you know is who you know. And corruption and nepotism are some of the causes of unemployment, youth unemployment in Africa and specifically Nigeria. You know, corruption, we've seen cases where a civil servant will have to falsify his or her age in order to elongate his or her service year. And then we've also seen situations where jobs are given to people not necessarily because they merit it, not necessarily because they have the intellectual know-how to deliver to optimum capacity, but because they know somebody somewhere. How can this be reversed? How can this ugly scenario be curbed?
Well, like I said earlier on, the issue of trust and integrity has to be worked on. You can't pick a person that is not the good person, the good man, the capable person of handling that job to do that job. Is actually the reason why we are failing compared to the other countries in the world. You bring a lawyer to become the minister of power. What does he have to say? What does he have to do in that aspect? And look at the situation that we are in the country.
We've also seen people who read agri working in the bank.
So until we begin to focus on, you are trained to be a lawyer, see how you can map out laws, bring out things that is going to function in that area. If you are an engineer, you make everybody, the dignity of labor should come in. People should be able to express themselves based on what they are trained to do.
But talking about people expressing themselves based on what they are trained to do, in Nigeria, our roads and bridges are built by foreign-owned construction companies like Julius Berger and others. And every year, graduates of civil engineers are churned out of our tertiary institutions. Should we say that our institutions are producing graduates that we don't have faith in or that we are not proud of?
It's a problem of value. We don't value our own. We don't value the capacity that we have. The lecturers that are lecturing in the universities, they are Nigerians. So if these graduates are out year in, year out, and they cannot compete with the foreigners, the expatriates, that means you are saying that these graduates are not doing their job.
But there's also need for the government, whether at the federal level or state level, to put in place construction companies where either state-owned or, like I said, at the federal, where these people will easily find a place to put their knowledge capabilities into place.
Well, if you ask me, I think the government might not be able to do everything that we actually need, but individuals. But they are just going to put the policies in place. If you go to China, you can see some little manufacturing companies. Most of the things that we are consuming today that is coming from China, most times might not be a very big industry, might not be a very big manufacturing house. Maybe some group of people might just team up together and come up with ideas to manufacture a particular thing. And it works. You look at Today, they are giving solution to our light problem. The energy bulb that can go off. When the light goes off, the light will still be on. And you see that the country is making great impact all over the world. China is exporting to other countries, even the US. So the policy has to be friendly for the country to move forward, making these people know that what I can do, I can sell it.
Da Costa, can we have your last message on the impact of youth unemployment in Africa, Nigeria in perspective? Can we
I will still harp on education. And what is education? Schooling is a subset of education. That's the mistake we used to make here. Certificated training is not everything about education.
That's correct.
So the training you acquire and the value you take away from that and your ability to deploy that via skill is what education is all about. It's not about certificate. It's not about how many papers you've gathered as certificate. And until we start looking at the content of the training we give to an individual, until we start harnessing the gift, the natural gifts that are inside the people. Nigerians are talented people. To curb unemployment, people have ideas, people have skill. Let them be able to deploy it. And when they deploy it, will they have value for what they have deployed? Do we honor? Do we recognize merit in Nigeria? This is a country that we must learn how to reward hard work. When people put much into the system, they should be able to be recognized and they should be able to be rewarded. That will encourage others also to do the same. We have in too much unnecessary number of people going to the universities, to the polytechnic and things like that. I am not saying that they are not relevant to the development of our country. They are very relevant to the development of our country. But there are some people in our universities that has no business doing there. Okay, let us take Aba, for example. The magic that is going on in Aba. In Ariaria market, Aba shoe market. Even now, thanks to the former immediate past minister of power, that is, they are doing some off-grid power generation for Ariaria market and things like that. But look at their ingenuity when there was no power. The way they power some of the little tools they use in producing. Now I know that they are producing some jackboots. I don't know in what quantity for the Nigerian army and some other paramilitary organizations. That is what we're talking about. Look at the jean, the pants, the trousers, the sewing, the suits, the jackets that are coming out from there and that are being sold there. We can provide, like they are taking most of those international designers that we wear. They are from Bangladesh, Malaysia, and things like that. And we can do better here. We can do sewing centers that we can have 10,000 people on machine working and things like. We can do better here, and those are the kind of things we need to encourage. Alibaba, how many PhD does he have? The owner of Alibaba. Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, how many degrees or PhD? Maybe you mentioning the Dangote of our own here. How many? Maybe now the honorary ones that are coming because of
like
success.
The one he got from the University of Cairo.
So those are the things we need to look into, develop people's ability. And you talked about the engineers. Yeah. We don't need qualified university engineers to build roads. It's about skill. When they learn it, then they can deploy it. And if you know you have gone to the universities to study building or building engineering or civil engineering, please make sure that when you come out, you are worth your salt. And that is what can promote us as a people, as a country. There's so much success that is about to begin.
So can we also have your final take on the...
Well, like he said, the skill, I'll really look into it. Every individual, because if we sit down and we keep on waiting for the government, we'll come back here, year in, year out, discussing unemployment. We have to develop our skills in different areas. That way, you are good at a particular thing, he is good at a particular thing, we complement each other, and the economy will grow. that way, even the government will start looking for how can we partner with you and all that, because people recognize people that have lifted up from the ground to a certain level. So I think we should begin to look at skills that is recognized all over the world.
Yeah.
Are you getting me? Yeah. That way you can compete with even the international community, that I can do this, and we are looking for somebody. We're talking about going to the internet, the use of the internet, the digital marketing today. So many people are going into digital marketing, expressing themselves, what they can do in that aspect. And as long as you put whatever you can do on the internet, you get calls from any part of the world, which you begin to look at foreign economy. Are you getting me? Yeah. When a foreigner comes into Nigeria and he works, there's what they call capital flight. The money goes back to his country, remittance. So Nigerians should begin to look at earning in the international economy as well, whereby you do something over the internet with your skills, and the outside world sees it, they get from you, and the money comes in maybe their currency or in our currency. That way, we can't be sitting down and looking or waiting for the government to create jobs. I think that is my take.
Well, it's been super hot here. I would have really loved to continue to engage with my discussants, Da Costa Adeoye and Wana Michael, on this issue of youth, the impact of youth unemployment in Africa, Nigeria in perspective. But the show has to come to a close. However, the good news is you can continue to engage with me via our social media handle, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CK10 Television, or my personal social media handle. For Instagram, it is official Joseph Effiong, and for Twitter, it is at Long Lens. A very big thank you to my technical team, Shubumi Arogudande and Olugbenga Odusoya, and also a very big thank you to my super producer Roland Dosomo. Thank you very much, guys. I love you. Until I come your way again next time, keep watching CK10 Television, and I remain yours sincerely, Joseph Effiong.